My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review for Black Summer. And I've heard some really great things about this show, so I decided to watch seasons 1 and season 2. This is my review for season 1, and I will be going slightly into depth. I won't be giving full spoilers, but I will be talking about each episode to a certain degree. But if you haven't seen it, I don't think you got much to worry about. I'll talk about season 2 in a later video. But okay, I heard amazing things about this show, like I said, and I don't get it. I do not understand it whatsoever. There are some decent effects here, like you do buy the fact that the world's been completely overrun by zombies, and there are some cool moments. Like there's a moment where someone's trying to convince someone to let me in the vehicle, like please, I promise you I won't backstab you, like please let me in. And you're just like, I don't know if she should do it, but the guy's really convincing, and she gives in, and then the guy just immediately shoots her, and it's just like, okay, that's good. It shows that you can't trust anyone no matter how convincing they might be. And I like that aspect of the show, at least to a certain degree, because the show definitely overuses it to a point where it kind of loses its shock value as the show does progress. There's some moments where you're just like, wow, how did you fall for that? Like there's one time where there's two people in a house and the guy's holding one at gunpoint and then the other guy's like, I have to pee. And the guy's like, okay, but I'm following you. And just the way the guy escapes from the other dude, it's just like, really? How did you fall for that? Like, you must be the dumbest person alive. Episode 2 is actually really good. It does show how something as small as wearing a seatbelt can make a huge difference if you live or not. Because you're just like, well, the world's been overran by zombies, so what's the point of wearing a seatbelt? And then someone might not wear a seatbelt and they might get killed because of it. And I like that kind of stuff in it because it shows that there are rules in this universe where you still have to be safe. There's also a moment where someone's trying to kill someone else, and then within a few brief moments, they go from trying to kill each other to helping each other. And it just shows how the world's unpredictable. You might be in one situation 1 minute and then a completely other one the next. And I thought episode 2 was a really good episode. Episode 3 straight up awful. Okay, let's talk about one thing I absolutely hate when it's in movies, when it's in shows, and that's when kids beat up the adults. I think it's the dumbest freaking thing ever. Just these kids with guns, like, keep walking. Like, I just can't take it seriously. It is stupid. Like, really? They're like half your size, just drop kick them, punch them in the throat. You kidding me? You're getting beaten up by a bunch of kids. How embarrassing for you. If that ever happened to me, they should just shoot me because I'd rather die than die of embarrassment with that. So yeah, I hated episode 3. Episode 4 is another terrible episode. It's just this guy running away from zombies the entire time. There's no character development, there's no character dynamic, it's just a guy running. Like literally the entire episode. And after 2 minutes you're just like, yeah, I'm kind of getting tired of this, and it doesn't ever feel fresh. In fact, it gets more frustrating because the guy makes the dumbest possible decisions every chance he gets. Like there's a scene where he's in a grocery market and then a zombie starts chasing him and he runs out of the grocery market and I'm just like, what are you doing? Home Alone his ass. Set up, pour laundry detergent on the floor, get him to slip, do a bunch of different things. And that might sound like a nitpick, but it's not. And here's why. Because it shows you what kind of show this is. Instead of doing something fresh with the setting, the show just relies on the same situations time and time again. They don't utilize the setting. They don't utilize what's around them. In fact, they just keep it as dull, generic, and simple as can be. And that's why episodes like this just grow stale after a while. Because they don't freshen it up after a short period of time. So it could have been a really fun, entertaining, and intense episode if they just utilized the grocery store the guy was in. The episode just ends up being completely dull and just awful. And maybe it's been introduced before episode 4, but this was the first time that I understood what was going on. And I absolutely hate this aspect of the show. And that's the fact that if anyone dies, they become zombies. They don't have to get bitten by the zombies. They don't have to get killed by the zombies. But if you shoot someone, you become a zombie now. Well, not you, but the person you shot becomes a zombie. And I hate that. I think that it's the dumbest thing ever. There's no logic behind it, and it kind of lessens the impact of zombie bites. Like, that's the big tension thing in zombie movies. Like, oh my goodness, you got bitten. But now it's just like anyone can die, and they can become zombies. And I don't know, at a eventual point, it becomes too easy, it becomes too simple, and because of that, it just becomes too contrived, and it takes you out of it. I hate that aspect of the show. Episode 5 is easily the best episode of the entire show, season 1 and season 2. I love this episode. I wish the entire show was like this episode. First, I'll say that it's focused, it's cohesive from start to finish. It mainly focuses on one bunch of characters. And you don't know who to trust, what's going to happen. It's all these different people manipulating each other. And I was on edge the entire time. This is what the show should have been. But it's not. And unfortunately, this episode just kind of stands as a reminder of what the show has potential to be but doesn't decide to be. So in some ways, it's kind of frustrating, but it is a good episode. It's a really good episode. Episode 6 was completely dialogueless, for the most part at least, and I don't know, this episode just didn't do anything for me. It's kind of trying to be fancy, like, look, we can tell a story in one episode without any dialogue, but I don't care for these characters. And after a while, I'm just like, okay, what's going on? It just kind of feels like another dull episode, except this time you don't get dialogue. Like, just because you don't do dialogue doesn't mean it's an artistic choice. You have to do something with that, and I don't think this episode does. I thought it was a very dull and boring episode. Episode 7 was alright. It's definitely dragged out, but there's two big character moments for two different characters, and I thought that element of the episode was really well done. It does flesh out the characters in interesting ways. Like I said, it's dragged out, could have probably been like 10 to 15 minutes, but it's fine. And then we get the big finale, episode 8, and this episode is way too ambitious for its own good. It's not as intense or thrilling as it wants to be. Lots of people die in this episode, but if anything, it just proves as a reminder that you don't really care for these characters. It's just like, oh, that guy's dead now. Well, okay, and then you go about your day. Like, I do love the fact that they're willing to kill the main characters. Like, that's great, that's ballsy, go with that. But develop the characters in interesting ways first before you do it. There's just not enough here that when some people died, I should have been like, oh my god! They just killed him! That is the saddest and most shocking thing ever. But instead I'm just like, eh. There's also a complete overuse of shaky camera, which just didn't work for me at all. But I will say that the last moment in this episode had some of the best acting in the entire show, and it was a nice emotional way to end the season. So, yeah, episode 8, yeah, but it ends strong, so I'll give it that. My thoughts on season 1 as a whole, it isn't very good. There's moments where you can see what it's going for, but for the most part, it doesn't work. The structure of this show and how it jumps around from all these different groups of people, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't feel like a cohesive storyline. It just feels like it's getting made up on the spot. Like, oh, we can have the characters do this episode. And it just doesn't feel like it's building to anything at all. And just because it's focusing on so many different groups of people and everyone in each group is dying, at a certain point, you just don't become attached to anyone because it is all over the place and everyone is dying. And there's not a clear main character because some episodes will focus on a group of people, and then the next episode they won't be in that episode at all. So there's not a clear main character for you to really latch yourself onto. There was a clear main character that you're meant to care for, only because of she's the one with the one clear goal, but that's about it in the work of character development on the show. It's not very good, and the structure definitely hurts it. The acting is serviceable for the most part. There's lots of moments of overacting, but there are some moments where the acting is really good, like I said in episode 5. But the show just doesn't work for me. I think it's a messy, not scary, not intense show that doesn't have the impact it seeks to have. So I'm going to go ahead and give Black Summer Season 1 a 4 out of 10. Okay, did you watch Black Summer Season 1? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin out.